how nice that looks. I'm going to set those out of the way. This is a little bumpy right here, and we've got kind of a sharp edge right there. I could go in and modify delete point and delete that point, and it will either look better or change. Nope, don't want to do that. So I could probably do that if I created a point and put one right here and one right here, and then it holds the places of the line, but I can delete that one and it will smooth out the curve. So now I can modify delete point and get rid of that one, and it looks better. The shape didn't change, but the curve improved. Here I don't want to do that because I need to retain all of that fullness. Well, I don't know, I probably could, but we'll come back to that. Right now we're making a base pattern that you're going to put in your collection to use for your final project, and we've got our fronts. I don't think I'm going to have you add seam allowance to this one. We'll just have it ready. But I do want to go through how to make notches on here. So we're going to learn another cool thing now, so pay close attention. Come up to verify and down to walk pieces. Select the lines on the stationary piece or pieces and end selection to continue. So this is going to be our stationary piece, and that's the line, and we want it to go that direction. So I'm going to say OK, and then select the lines on the walk pieces and end selection. So that's the line, but it's going the wrong way. So I'm going to right click in the water and say change direction. So now they're both going the same way, and I'm going to say OK. And it flipped over, and it's going to let me walk along there and see if they match. Well, they don't quite. I have a little bit of extra ease in this side piece. So I'm going to set it down right here. And to set it down, I'm just going to touch it. I could put in add notch, but I sometimes have a hard time with that, and so I figure you may. If any of you want to figure out just how to make that perfect, you can have extra credit and tell me how. Okay, so the way I usually add a notch, rather than messing with that, is to go in to create standard notch, and I can just touch down and put it right where they start to switch directions, and that notch is on my side. I can see that because it's green at the same time. So I can go in and add another notch on this piece and just come over until I'm right on top of the other one and release, and now I've got a notch on both pieces in the same place. I could have done that same thing by measurement, and we'll probably do that in a while, but that was doing it by hand. So I'm going to cancel out of that, and you can replay it if you want to see it again, but I have two notches there that match. And because I want to keep the ease I have in this piece, sometimes I don't, but this time I want to keep it. So I'm going to start walking the piece from the end this time. So back up to edit, verify walk pieces. Select the lines on the stationary piece, that's this one again, say OK. The line on the walk piece, and it's coming the same direction, so I'm going to start that over. I'm going to say cancel. Verify walk pieces, the line on the stationary piece, right click on the water and say change direction. Say OK, right click on the other piece, right click on the water, say change direction, because this time I want to come from the bottom. And say OK. So now they're going to line up, and this time right there where they're starting to shift direction, I want to stop it again. And I could measure up, but I'm going to put it in manually. And you can, in theory, add the notch as you're coming along. But every time they come out with a new version of software, things get updated and improved a little bit, and this might be one of those ones that's flaky, or it might just be teacher error. But I just have found it faster to just add my notch while I'm here. Now that's going to make me want to figure it out because it sounds stupid. So I make sure I'm on one piece, and then I make sure I'm on the other piece, and I've got them both there, and they match. So I'm curious, how much difference is there between those two spaces? So I can come in and modify line split, make sure that I come right on top of the notch and split the line on all 4 sections. And then I can do verify line length on all of the sections. 3.394, 3.395, 3.944, 4.096. So 11.216 and 212. So if I had done that by measurement, I could have gotten it a little bit more accurately. And maybe you want to do that. So we'll try that. I'm going to combine this line. Modify line, combine, clockwise, and clockwise. I'm also going to delete those 2 notches. Modify, delete, notch. Choose the notch, choose the other notch, say OK, they're gone. So they were at a little past 11, so I'm going to add them both at 11 inches coming from the bottom up. So create notch, but instead of just touching, I'm going to right click in the water and say distance from point. Select the point to measure the distance from. So that's going to be this bottom corner right here, and I want it to be 11 inches counterclockwise, so I'm going to put in a negative 11 and say OK, and there's my notch. Then it wants to know if there's another one, and there is. This time, is that also negative 11? No, that one's positive 11. My piece is just upside down. So I'm going to say 11. And, well, what do you know? It went clockwise with the way it is on the screen. It came all the way around and did this. So I'm going to say distance from point again and start at that point and say negative 11 again. Okay. Then I'm going to delete this one. Modify, delete, notch. Well, so I need to split on those 2 lines again. Modify, line split, and modify line split. So now I have exactly 11 on both of them, and this one I have 4.16 and this one I have 4.308, And if I want to, I can look for the calculator because I want to. And 4.308 minus 4.16 is 1.48. So that is just ever so slightly more than 1/8 of an inch. And I can ease in that 1/8 of an inch. And this is less than a 1/64 of an inch, so I'm not going to worry about that. And I'm going to leave them that way. I can leave the numbers on. But that was walking pieces. So we'll look at that one more time. And this time, when I walk, verify walk pieces, I'm going to select the line on the stationary piece again, and I'm going to skip that part and say OK, and select the line on the walk piece and say OK. And now I can see that it lines up. And that little shift right there is from when I moved that line over. And I keep wanting to reach up and touch the screen and point to it, but that isn't going to help. But right there, do you remember when we moved the line down? That's why that's off a little bit. So walk pieces is kind of similar to modify, set, rotate, but modify, set, rotate leaves the pieces side by side, and verify, walk flips the piece over. So you have different uses for them. I'm going to go to modify, realign piece and touch this one so that it's back the right way. But those two line up nicely. And if you wanted to add seam allowance to this, I'm going to do it just for review because of that corner that we need to pre-miter. So I'm going to go to Advanced, Corners. Oh, well, it won't help till I define. Okay. I'm going to do both pieces at once. Say OK and put in 0.625 for my 5/8. And I flipped the piece over. Well, now I need to flip it over again. Modify. Flip about line. Set, rotate. Match point on the target piece is that line. Match line on the target piece is that one. Match point on the set piece is that exact corner and that same line. Then I'm going to say cancel so it stays in the same place. And then come up to Advanced Seam Corner, double miter. And this time I haven't swapped the seam. I could, but I have to touch the corner that is the solid line. So I did. And you just touch it and then let go and it's pre-mitered. And I could have been more careful with that. But that was our little review on mitering. Alright, I'm going to save those two pieces. Those are my fronts. and they're in my blouse model, and we've already created a model in the previous one. And I have to cancel so I don't do whatever I was. Now I'm going to bring down my back. And this one I want to do the same thing and get rid of the extra lines that I don't need. So modify line combine, clockwise and in order. Say OK. Clockwise and in order. This time is going the opposite direction because it's the other side of the piece. Okay. So let's see how well those two line up. Verify walk piece. Select the lines on the stationary piece. I want it to go the other way, so I'm going to change direction. That was right click in the water. Say OK, that's my stationary piece, and the line on the walk piece is this one. It's already going the same direction, so I'm just going to say OK and then walk it around. And those line up so nicely, except the closer you zoom in, not so much. So how am I going to adjust that? Well, I might want to shorten this one. How well are they lining up on the outer edge? So I do need to make a change right here. Everything seems to be lining up nicely through here. But I don't know how I want to change it yet. So I'm going to double check a couple of things before I make that decision. I'm going to set it down here at the end where it is, and I'm going to compare the side seam of the front. So my stationary line is this line. That's the direction I want it to go, so I'm going to say OK. And I want to line this one up with it and say OK to that. So let's see how that looks. Well, those are precise, so we don't need to change anything about the side seam. I'm going to make that touch right there and release. And I want to check my hem too. So this decision is going to be based on how all of the pieces look together. And I want to flip my side front over right here. So I'm going to split the line right here on the side front. Modify line split. I want to make sure I've got the front. The front is the one highlighted right now, so I'm going to touch down so that doesn't change. And I'm touching right there. Did that work? Yes. Okay, so I can modify piece flip, and I'm going to flip around a line, and I'm touching that line, and it'll flip around that one. So this is the continuation of my hem right here. And that could be more perfect. It's close, but it could be more perfect. And I want my back to line up right here. So let's see what will happen if I don't change it first. Modify set rotate. Match point on target piece. Oh, we have this. Okay, I'm going to walk, and then flip. Modify line, no, verify walk. Change direction, say OK. So we have something messy there. Modify line, piece flip. If I don't split this piece, what's going to happen? Well, it flipped around the imaginary line between here and here, and that's not where I wanted it to flip. But it is lined up. So I do have options. This is where you start to feel like paper would be so much easier, because it's like trying to make a pattern with mittens on. But once you get used to the commands, it's easy to line them all up. But I'm letting you see what happens so that it's easier for you to be careful and understand why. So I'm going to cancel out of that, and before I take this on, I want to see if there's anything I need to fix in this shoulder area, and there easily could be. So modify, piece, set, rotate. Match point on the target piece, match line on the target piece, match point on the set piece. Okay, so we do have a little bit of a thing happening here. If you look at that shoulder, is it truly straight? And this line isn't exactly perfect. So create line 2 point. If I put a line on between those 2 points, that line is not exactly straight. That line is now attached to this piece, so I want that same line copied onto this piece. Because if I leave it there, even just that slight amount is going to pull the front toward it, and you'll get a wrinkle that you won't know how to get rid of, because this is going to pull against the front in a way that's not pleasant. So we want this line where these two join to be actually straight. And right here where these cross over, I'm going to split both lines. Create a line, copy. I want to copy this line, and I want it to go on this, no, not that piece. I want it to go on this piece. Say OK. There's the line. Come back and say cancel. Now both of them have that line attached, and I can swap that out. I could do it now, or I could do it later. Should we just do it now? Modify line, swap. Dotted line. I want this dotted line. Say OK. I know it's on this piece because it's green now. I want to swap it for that line. Say OK. I'm not really sure about that. I don't think that went as planned. Alright, I'm going to undo because I want that piece to stay where it is. And I'm going to come up and move this one away, and then I'll swap. Modify line, swap. Choose the dotted line, say OK. Choose the solid line, say OK. now it's going to be straight, and I can delete that extra line. I'm hoping that you're all meticulous pattern makers by the time I'm a little old lady and I have to well, I'm already, but anyway, when I have to retire, I want the patterns and the clothes that I buy to look nice and not be messy. So I'm counting on you to do a good job. Modify line swap. Select, swap. Select the dotted line, say OK. Select the solid line, say OK. Delete the line. Okay, so that's good. So I know that my shoulder is going to be what I want it to be. So I'm coming to modify, set rotate, piece, set rotate. Match point on the target piece is this one. Did I miss? And then the line, and then the line. And cancel. Alright, they cross over each other right here in, you know, one of those things that on paper you might not notice. Or maybe you'd make it perfect on the paper, but right here the lines come together just perfectly. So I'm going to put a notch right there on both of them, right where they're crossing over, and there's already a point. So I'm going to put in another one, but this time that's the side back, so I want the center back. So I can just choose that spot, and I have my matching lines. And I'm on a different computer because it takes so long for things to save and load that I have to switch between multiple. Okay. That's why it's coming from the other side. So right through here, I want this to be a straight line too. I mean, it starts out straight here. There just must be some little intermediate point. So I'm going to go up to modify delete point and find it. There's not one there. So I need to cancel out of that and choose my and there's not one there. But there's one there. So I'm going to delete that one. And now they're going to come together more nicely and retain that position without giving it some torque. But I've still got a nice smooth line right there, and I need to put a double notch somewhere on this piece to designate it as my back. And if I walk those around and end up at the bottom, then I will be able to blend the line between the two when I get them lined up right. So this is all part of truing and balancing. We're walking through this together, and once you've got your basic pieces all nice and balanced, then you can continue to use them, and as long as you're careful with them, you don't have messes to clean up anymore. This is our basic princess. Front and back, it could be a blouse or a jacket. You can turn it into what you want to, but you do need to save these and turn the screenshot of it in on Canvas. So, verify, walk pieces. Select the line on the stationary piece. It's going the way I want it. Say OK. Select the line on the other piece, change direction, and then say OK. And it's coming down here, and I want to zoom in. Am I happy with that? Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. So they're touching, and I'm going to touch in the water and set it down. And I have this crazy little mess where I need to combine some lines here, and I don't know, I'm kind of thinking I just want to let that go out straight. What do you think? Modify, line, combine. There is more than one way to solve this particular problem. No. I have an upward triangle right there, but is that really the end point? Class is this way too. Sometimes I'll get myself into a place where I'm really not sure what I've got. But I need to isolate that piece. So yes, that is the end point of a line, and we want to combine it. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is continue this line straight out and just let them share it, and then I'll cut it off when I fix the hem. So I'm going to create a 2-point curve, and if 2 points determine a line, and I touch down on that right there, and I can watch this. Do you see how I'm pulling it out? It's attached to a line. When I pull it out here so that it's too long, and I bring it back so that it goes in line with the other 2 lines, when it disappears into the line, I can set it down. Well, that wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. So we'll go with it. Modify, line, rotate. Select the line to rotate. Say OK. Select the point on the same line to rotate around. We want this end to rotate. And now it's all crazy moving. And I can do what I intended to in the first place. Just set it down where it disappears. Maybe it should go a little further. So I'm going to do it again. No. Say OK. Select the point to rotate. Alright, it's probably in the same place. But I'm going to copy that line onto this piece. No, I'm going to copy that line onto the yellow piece, because the yellow piece doesn't have the line yet. Create line, copy. Select the line. Say OK, and this time I'm going to choose that one. Say OK, and cancel. So they're on top of each other. So now that I've got that, I'm going to flip this piece around that new line I just put there. Modify line, no. Modify piece, flip. Select the line to flip around. I hope I'm not making you dizzy, but we needed to see what line it was. Okay. So I've got this joint space right here where the bottom of my hem lines up. And I can delete this the extra lines I've got there. I'm not going to. I want to swap them. We'll come back to that thought. Right now, I just want a nice smooth hem. And it would be a good idea if I had the front involved. But it's probably going to have the same kind of problem as the other one. So I'm just going to deal with from here back to here. This is a right angle already. So it's going to be the same, this right angle. I can measure that if you want to. Let's see, verify, measure angle. these two lines are 90 degrees. And that's the only one I can touch right now. Clear all. These two are 90 slightly less, and these two are also 90, but together they come together nicely. But they could be a tiny bit nicer. This one is an angle. So between here and here is where I want to make a change. So just like you do on paper, you're going to line up all of your pieces side by side and make a nice hem. Create, line, 2-point curve. And it's probably time I ended this video, but we do need to finish the thought. So right there, that, I like that, so I'm going to set it down. And I'm going to copy that line, which is attached to the front, to the two back pieces. So I'll have all of my pieces separated. So I guess this one's going to be called balancing the hem. Okay, create, line, copy, copying, oh dear. Oh no, it's attached to this last piece. That line gets copied to, it says pieces, so I'm going to put one on this piece and one on this piece. And say okay, here's the line. Say okay again, and it's there. So now I've got a line there, and a line there, and a line there. So I'm going to realign all of the pieces again. And I'm going to end the video and we'll come back to this.